So we're going to be diving into a little bit into the world of BIM and GIS, right? I mean, that's the center point of a lot of what is in the new construction technology nowadays. And that brings me to the first question, right? Which is the integration of BIM and GIS is transforming the way we design and manage our infrastructure. From the smart cities to large infrastructure projects, what do you believe are the key trends driving the convergence of these technologies today?
I see the main trend will be like the digital twins or smart cities are the key drivers, as you know. And one of the another driving force is AI, which is bringing a huge change and making some things which are not possible earlier feasible. That is a key driving factor. These two are the other areas. And we have now the IoT devices. The technology is improving the capacity through 5G technology, enabling things data transfers at a much higher speed. These are all the driving factors I see in towards this direction, and more and more digitalization will helps in our operations, asset lifecycle management, and managing the assets efficiently.
Yes, I would like to add actually that recently we have seen better awareness from the clients and developers regarding the importance of integrating BIM and GIS. We initially started back in 2018 having this integration in Expo 2020 when we were building, and it's proved to be quite efficient, giving us an information on a district and neighborhood and city level, not only inside the buildings. Currently, one of the ambitious projects happening around in the region is the ambitious plan by Dubai municipality, making an entire digital twin for the whole city of Dubai. And that's possibly only through the integration of a GIS and digital twin. Now, on top of that, I would like to add to what Mr. Raj mentioned. One of the new features will be required for this integration is the importance of handling the data. Which data we would like to touch base, which data we want to reflect, which data we want to see. It's very important to have the data through the proper cycle, which starts from data collection, data segregation, data deployment, and then reflection of the final result. Because it's argued by IBM that only 5% of data around us is used for the final decision makes. Okay, and one of the critical components, because if we have GIS information and BIM models which are overloaded with unnecessary data, that's it's a waste of our effort and energy and resources. That's why optimizing the data collected and used, this is, in my opinion, will be the next core essential, defining what kind of data we need, how we filter the necessary data only, and how we optimize the life update for this data.
If you allow me as well, I 100% agree with Mr. Raj and Mr. Marwan regarding the smart cities and digital twin. One of the key factors to managing or handling the asking for this BIM and GIS integration, but one of the main things as well, which helping us or driven this integration much easier with the cloud-based services, which make the collaboration between all the stakeholders much easier because the it's different communication, if different vocabulary from GIS and BIM people. They're talking about the data in different ways. So the cloud services, which make made this integration much easier, and this collaboration can be integrated or can talk to each other, that help the future cities or smart cities and digital twin become much easier because the real-time data enhancement or update, the designs always keep changing, the master plans keep changing, etc. So the real-time data, it's one of the main factors that take this integration next level. So I can consider the cloud-based services and the smart cities digital twin is one of the main key driven to take this.
Well, I think the trends already cover, but I just maybe emphasize again on the two most common trends, which is smart cities and digital twins. And basically, when we talk about BIM and GIS integration, in simple words, what we talk about is studying how the surrounding environments affect buildings when we design these buildings, and how the buildings in return affect the surrounding environments. And out of these, there are common use cases: improving urban planning, talk about smart city, optimizing energy use, enhances sustainability, better decisions, real-time monitoring. So this kind of real usages, real use cases. So this is the two most common use cases. Of course, there are sub branches of these common trends, but smart city and digital twins are the most common ones.
So I think you all touched on an essential point, right? Which is the connectivity, bringing together what is real-time feedback from the world, what is being updated into the models, back into action decision making, right? And that's driving this process. But if we're realistic about digital twins, about building these digital physical world models, is that they're not always easy to make, right? So, and that's something we face very much at Look, the company I'm building in the US here, is that having the feedback loop of accurate, aligned data, right? Fixing the technical issues, complying with different IT data requirements, are a few of many of the unexpected challenges that are still happening. In your eyes, what are some of the most common problems you face in this integration between GIS and BIM, essentially?
In my opinion, actually, the data management setup, one of the challenges it's that how you make the balance between the necessity for information, but at the same time the privacy of the information, because not everybody want to share everything at all times. And that's why there is a new mechanism which is called provide at required only, or only need, or only know what need only. And that's basically something built on a blockchain setup, which ensures the maximum security. And the principle for that setup, just to know the information, it's for example, the bank want to know my credit record. Okay, they don't need to see my entire account or my full bank statements and everything information. They need only to know the relevant information, only. And that's where the new technologies such as blockchain comes to the ground to introduce the new Web 3.0, because in my opinion, this will be essential. Unfortunately, from commercial perspective, it's not very beneficial for commercial industries, for commercial or corporates. That's why it's not strongly driven. Okay, but it secures the more privacy of the information, and again, filter no, providing only what's need to be known, not unnecessary exposing too many informations. So the information privacy and security, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest challenges we have these days.
Just to add what Mr. Marwan is saying, there are another kind of challenges also we see. Like traditionally, BIM models are very detail oriented, and in your GIS systems, sometimes we may not need that kind of details. And also interoperability. The formats are different, the technology is different, and different level of positional accuracy details. So these kind of challenges create hurdles in the process of smooth integration. That's we see most of the time. On the BIM side, you have too many details. On the GIS side, the expected details are very different, and the format differences. So if we can solve this kind of issues with a standardization or some other mechanisms, and you are sitting with legacy data and mismatches between your GIS world and the BIM world, these are some of the challenges I see.
I totally agree with Raj. If I may jump in again, sorry, gentlemen, but actually, Raj just touched one of the painful points. Actually, it's an excellent point. And yes, we found that in some, not actually, recently we started to make two different versions of the models. One model, we call it lightweight model for the use of digital twin purpose solely. And we keep it light as much as possible, only the basic necessary information. And then the traditional as-built model. And yes, it's a very good point, Raj. I totally agree with you.
Yes, I may add to some of the common problems in when it comes to BIM and the GIS integrations is the amount of data, the volume of data. If we talk, for example, talk about smart city, we're talking about a huge amount of data, especially if we need to do real-time monitoring. So for this, data need to be processed, stored, handled, maintained, updated, and this require infrastructure to deal with all this data. And not only that, you need people, skilled people. That's one of the issues also. What the point if you have technology and infrastructure, but you don't have the right people to drive this technology, the right processes, the right data format. So all of these things add up together as common of the problems when it comes to the integration between the two methodology, GIS and BIM. And also maybe add quickly, they are different backgrounds. You have the different experts. On the BIM side, you have architect, engineers, but on the GIS, you have GIS specialists, and sometimes they speak different languages. They have different background. So also bringing this collaboration between this, having some common ground, also sometimes it's a challenge.
I just can add as well. I 100% agree with the team here because the size of the data, the infrastructure that's going behind the whole system to make all these running together, and still, as I mentioned before, the collaboration between these teams, etc. It's very challenging. The governance, as mentioned by Mr. Marwan, who's what can be shared, what cannot be shared, and what the level of details that be can be displayed to the for public or the other teams, etc. In addition, if we are talking about as we, huge cities or countries, etc., we are talking about different coordinate system, different projection of coordinate system, which that may take us to mismatching of coordinate system as well between the BIM and the GIS as well. Uh, all these factors, it make the life a little bit challenging to integrate the BIM and GIS. As mentioned by Mr. Marwan previously, that it's about 5, 6 years ago when we start talking about BIM and GIS integration. So, and real-time data, the updating real-time data correction, etc. All these to be synchronized between all these teams. That's really challenging to build the right infrastructure to manage this size of data. It's terabyte, maybe petabyte as well. And yeah, if we're talking about small cities, it can reach easily petabytes, easily with level of details. We're talking about second level of details, not all the details that related to BIM. So the infrastructure to build right infrastructure can manage this size of data. It's very challenging, and to make the governance clear and obvious and easily to manage these data, it's really challenging as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that the different technologies we're putting together, the different software platforms, processes lead to what is inherently data silos, interoperability challenges. And these barriers are fundamentally there, right? If I ask you all count the number of different software tools you do use, I'm sure that we can, throughout this panel, come up with over 10 different software tools for each one of us on our projects where we're seeing. But that brings me to a little bit more of, I'm going to say, a regional aspect, right? So specifically to the UAE, what are the challenges that you see in the seamless integration, right? Are we seeing processes from governmental infrastructure policies, industry initiatives that are helping us standardize on these tools, approaches, data standards, communication protocol, visibility protocols that make our lives easier? Or are we seeing progress in that direction?
Actually, despite the good intentions, okay, of the government agencies and so on, in my opinion, there is a technical challenge because data filtering and security, it is challenging. I will give example. I mentioned the blockchain as one of the ideal solutions for handling the data management for security and privacy. But Again, one of the problems for the blockchain, currently there are more than 16 mechanisms of confirmation of consensus for transaction. So the technology is not fully matured yet. This is one thing. The other thing, building a digital twin or a full smart city, this is a preceding. So we are touch base something very new. I mean, there's no like previous cases of a smart city anywhere else in the world. Yes, there are some initiatives on limited functions, like in Dubai, they're trying to make some neighborhood smart parking system, or some other cities smart traffic system, but nobody yet has a full holistic. I know there is currently some initiatives, especially the one when MIT institution and Boston, they are trying to make a full district as a smart city. That's why probably there is no clear framework who with anybody in the world yet to tell yes you should do one, two, three, four. Everybody who's working on smart city level or digital tool level, everybody still exploring. I don't think there's a full from end to end solution anywhere fully function yet in and around the world.
Yeah, I think we talked about the challenges, but for regional challenges, I think it's all generic challenges everywhere. It's not only specific to Dubai or any. Maybe there are some specific regional challenges, but common challenges are interoperability things between different technology, different software, different data format, adoption barriers like using skills gap, for example, and company maybe don't have enough budget to implement technology or upgrade their technology stack. But I just want to pick up on one of the advantages here in Dubai, regional advantages, is the government initiatives. Dubai, for example, pushing for digital transformation. Like as an example, last year, in 2024, BIM became mandated for new buildings, for certain types of buildings. So traditionally, the consultant used to submit CAD drawings, but now they are required to submit BIM models. And one of the use cases for this will be integrating these BIM models in the digital twin of Dubai. So this is an example where government initiatives pushing toward this transformation and the integration in a positive way.
What we see is cities like Dubai, Riyadh, or Abu Dhabi, the cities have grown quite fast in the last 20 years, or 20, 25 years, if you say precisely. And you can see two different worlds. All the modern infrastructure have detailed digital BIM models or CAD drawings. And when you go back in time, you have legacy data which is not maintained or not up to, not as per the as built, or changes are not maintained. And the challenge comes when a citywide you want to do a digital twin or a smart city project where you want to have all these details. So you face a challenge of two different worlds, where some places you have very detailed, accurate information. On the other side, you have minimal information. So combining these two is a typical challenge, what we see commonly here, and finding a middle ground. Where is your optimal place to start? You can always go back and go back and look at the old buildings and invest more money onto it and get the accurate data. But to start today, what is a common ground? Which level of details are sufficient or enough to start? So this is one place the decision makers face today in this region. And as the other colleagues mentioned, projects like smart cities or Abu Dhabi SDI programs or federal programs are helping to at least start somewhere, start gathering, standardizing it. I say it's a positive sign despite having all these challenges. But anyway, this challenge need to be addressed.
It's a little bit new requirement in general. I'm talking about the region. I'm not from UAE, but in general, so little bit as mentioned by the team, that skills gap, lack of standardization during the data submission, etc. The legacy of the infrastructure. All these make the transformation it's difficult, but in the end, the government in general all pushing for the digital transformation. They're pushing to enhance or to be technology leadership, let's say. So all these can leading that there is huge investment will happen in this to build this kind of data, to build this the foundation of the digital twin or the infrastructure for these technologies. So in coming years this will be enhanced for sure.
Great. So it sounds like we are making progress towards standardizing this. Is it from a city perspective? Is it infrastructure? Is it from a government? We are pushing on that standardization, which is going to help everyone downstream make the process more efficient. So I want to take the opportunity to give you all a little bit more of a deep dive into your own companies and processes that you're evolving, and touch on a little bit on the BIM GIS integrations that you guys have done and would recommend to any new organizations, professionals looking to get into this for a newer practice. What are some processes that you recommend people follow to ensure the efficient and scalable adoption of these technologies? So I would love to hear how each one of you really has learned and implemented some very specific examples in the industry around those integrations.
Okay, so I can maybe say a few words on this one. Is first, I think everyone need to manage expectations. When you start implementing this BIM GIS integration, it's not overnight thing. It requires patience, training, preparation. And the best approach is to follow agile approach. What I mean by the agile approach is to start small, start with the basic use cases. And with time, this will grow to be including more other use cases. And you learn from mistakes in the previous use case or whatever you started with. So that's kind of a gradual incremental development, not trying to solve the whole problem at once. The whole problem, it's quite big, challenging. We talked about large amount of data, technology challenges, skills gap. So all of these cannot be solved at one go. So this is why it's essential to start small and learn from the experience, the lessons, and then build up on what you learned in the previous phase. The other point is adopting maybe open standards, open data formats that help integration. So you're not tied up or coupled with a specific commercial vendor. So the landscape then it's bigger for you. You're not limited in one way. Like in Dubai municipality, when adopted BIM for new buildings permits, we ask the consultant to submit the format, the models, BIM models using IFC format because it's open. It's not related or tied, coupled with any commercial format. That give us the freedom to develop our internal infrastructure to process this data, give us the freedom to use the technology we need, develop in-house solutions, digital solutions. So that's another advantage or recommendation if someone wants to do some development or services related to BIM and GIS integration.
What we see is when we are dealing with our customers, the key aspect what differentiate between the successful project or otherwise is identifying what is the end goal. What are the use cases we are targeting to achieve with BIM? You can get everything under the sky, but as Dr. Ibrahim highlighted, you have to start small, identify your real use cases or end use cases in near term and in the long term. So once you identify, as soon as we operationalize it or bring that process into operations, like issuing a permit or managing your asset operations, as long as you bring that data or a service or a use case into your day-to-day workflow, the systems are thriving and maintained well. So we recommend from our experience, like see the end goal or end use cases in near term so that you can get management buy-in and systems continuously improve. That is one of the key takeaway from my experience, at least I can say.
I can add more. Yeah, one of the main factors when we are saying just focus on one aspect or understand where are you going, that to minimize the level of details or the size of the data that you're working on, that to enhance your system performance, for example, and to reduce the not rubbish, let's say to reduce unneeded or unnecessary data that you're utilizing on your aspect or you're focusing on. Other things is the cloud services. It's one of the main factor or the main important part, which to enhance the collaboration. We are keep saying the people who are working on GIS, not the same people who are working on BIM. So the cloud services, it's make the collaboration between all the teams much easier, and even the integration with for example with other vendors or with the client, etc. This can make the life much easier to integrate the data, that submission, the life cycle of the data, the processes. So you have to identify the area that you are focusing on, identify the workflows, the processes that you have to be implemented, and it's better to be based on cloud services to make these processes, the workflow, the changes much easier, and focusing on automation, minimizing the manual effort or human effort that to enhance the accuracy, to reduce the errors, etc. This is what I can highlight in these challenges.
But that brings us to our well, probably my favorite question here, right? Which is where are we heading next as an industry, as a software development set of tools, as a set of projects, and we're going to see a lot of evolution across these platforms, across the cloud interoperability, but specifically on the integration piece. I want to ask you all to think about what are you expecting to see change in the next 1 year, 5 years, and 50 years, right? Are we going to see standards change massively? Are we going to see software platforms become so easily integratable that we don't even have to worry about this? Or are we going to see this as a continuous pain point that's going to evolve, right? From my perspective, it's always been a human challenge, right, to decide on who is responsible for the standardization and integration. And I'm excited to see progress in this. But what do you all think? Are we going to see change in how this integration takes place based on how the industry is moving forward?
So if we go 3 years ago, when the collaboration or the partnership starts between Autodesk and Israel, which they are both main factors in this area, from BIM, Autodesk, and GIS, Israel from GIS perspective. And they start talking to each other through ArcGIS Online and Autodesk connectors. So when this happened, that made this communication much easier, which this is why we are recommending the cloud-based services. When that's happened, that gives you an indication where are we going. In future, maybe there is no GIS and BIM. It's a spatial engineering data. It's both in combination. It's both one area or something. The real-time data correction, real-time data update, the IoT, all these things can give you a huge indication that in future, most of the manual effort will be disappeared. For example, I remember maybe 10 years ago, there are companies, all the main area that work on digitizing satellite images and selling the data. Now we have AI and machine learning, etc., making this digitization, it's just a second. So you can understand that the size of the data or the level of detail that we're going to reach, it will be more deep, and the size of the data update or real-time data will be enhanced. We can manage traffic, we can manage the city in accurate way, precise. We are talking smart cities, so that means the IoT and real-time data will make huge difference in future.
Yes, I may add quickly. I mean, you ask about 50 years from now. I mean, it's difficult to predict tomorrow in a week what will happen, let alone say 50 years. Certainly, I don't think anyone can predict 50 years from now. But at least in the interim of the short term, we can predict that AI automation will have more role active, proactive. Maybe in the past is more reactive. but I would imagine with the boom of AI, different AI approaches. I'm not only specifically talking about large language model. We'll see more proactive roles of the AI agent, for example, in handling, processing data, and faster, much better quality than a human being. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is accessibility. I think nowadays the technology or people who can operate on technology related to GIS and BIM are skilled people, have niche experience, maybe programming experience. Maybe with time we'll have the technology is open for average, let's say, graduate from university, um, able to handle or operate systems like GIS and BIM systems. Also, we may see in the future standards that try to bring the two together, open standard. Currently, we have a standard for GIS, we have a standard, open standard like IFC for BIM, but maybe with time, we'll see more harmonization between these two standards to allow more seamless data integration between the two approaches or the two domains.
Looking at least near-term future, like long-term, we cannot predict anyway the way technology is changing. But what I see is the technology like large language models, especially ChatGPT, like of tools, reducing the barrier of entry, and it will reduce the skill related challenges. I'm saying that technology introducing into BIM and GIS world will make non-technical user or non-GIS user able to navigate around these kind of tools or complex engineering systems, will make it more easier for a common users. So that will one of the trend I'm seeing. Another thing is more and more cloud native technologies will emerge, where you can put all your data and systems start interoperable more and more. So that is one of the trend we can see in near future. Formats obviously will get standardized, and big players like Microsoft, AWS, ESRI, Autodesk, these are coming together, started talking to each other. Everyone is offering one or other way spatial data. So this will force them to standardize and interoperate. As a overall, I see these are the positive trends will make the technology more affordable and more easy to implement.
So I'm excited to see whether, in a few years, we're going to have language models and applications automate the construction side, the feedback, the operations of an asset, right? So whether or not we're going to go on WhatsApp and text someone, hey, we need to fix this pipe here, or whether we're going to have sensors that are going to be able to predict what is going to break, who needs to address it, and who needs to fix it. But that's a part for the future, and I think that brings us to a wrap, to a very exciting panel, and then we're going to open it up to a few Q&A questions. Emre, are we good to dive into that?
Yes, we have questions, and now I'm showing you. Yes, from the LinkedIn, Islam Hasham has a question regarding the integration between Autodesk and S3 products. Is this a better way for interoperability other than using open formats like IFC? So who want to jump to this question?
Yes, I would like to answer this actually.
Mhm.
I am a strong advocate towards open sources and standardization. Okay, IFC file extension is critical and essential. Unfortunately, it's not driven enough for commercial reasons from the tech corporates, and that's why, from business-oriented perspective, direct integration, it works, it's smooth and easy for end user to use the Autodesk S3 integration. But on long term, in my opinion, this is not the ideal case. We must enforce open standards. It's critical because otherwise we will limit our efficiency to a certain corporate product, which is not the case. We should be efficient because the process is efficient and working. Now, I understand there is a need for competition between companies, each other, and so on. But why I'm one of the biggest advocates towards open standards, BIM standards especially.
Mhm. Thank you. Actually, Islam has another question before that, so I would like to share with you. How can open data standards like IFC help address the interoperability changes between BIM and GIS system, ensuring smoother data exchange and integration?
The automation, one of the key factors to minimize the effort, saving time, saving costs, etc. So it's better to utilize something like to enhance the automation process. So even FME, Python scripts, demo, or I don't remember the name of the other softwares that can help you to automate these processes. So you can just run a workbench or the script and you can do the integration. But the issue is with this data exchange, if it's not a real-time data, so you have to make it on a regular basis to make sure that you are having the accurate or the latest version of the data in both systems.
Re-emphasizing on the open data standards. Keeping always the data in this open formats may enable more possibilities of integration, even though it is a little painful, but it has benefits in the long term.
Yeah, another question and last one. Again, Islam asked, is the integration between Autodesk and Esri tools are a more suitable solution for real-time data synchronization between BIM and GIS, or do open formats like IFC offer better long-term scalability? Of course, it depends projects, but if you want to answer, or do you have anything?
Islam mentioned that the other software is Dynamo. Yes, it is. And regarding this, as Mr. Marwan mentioned, that open source, it can provide this infrastructure, but you're gonna utilize a lot of other. It's not one or two softwares. You're gonna build the whole infrastructure. So when we are saying Esri and Autodesk, yes, there are some limitations based on these product limits, but in the end, it can give you the foundation or the fastest way, let's say, to build your infrastructure to make this synchronization easily. But in the end, you can build your own infrastructure through a lot of other open sources. So they are open source for each element, from servers operation to GIS operation to BIM operation, etc. But to build the full infrastructure, that you can do it in open source, but this will take time and effort. But it can be run officially or efficiency like Autodesk and Esri tools.
So, yeah, thank you again. It was really nice to hear you all here, and thanks for sharing your insights and experience. And we have to now jump another session. So thank you again, Hussein, Raj, and Marwan, Dominic, and Dr. Ibrahim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you
for
guys.
time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much.